Hi guys! So this video is about place of self-compassion within performance sports. And a lot of athletes, coaches, even sports psychologists, and all of us in general in the sporting community think that self-compassion equals satisfaction. And a lot of the times we think that if we are self-loving, if we really love ourselves, we will stop progressing in some ways. And this is the paradox of performance because if you don't love yourself and if you're not compassionate to yourself, you won't be able to go ahead in life. But still, a lot of us have this belief that if we are self compassionate, if we are really soft towards ourselves, we will stop excelling at what we do. And this is really, really interesting because a lot of the athletes I have spoken to often tell me that I won my game, but I didn't play well enough. I could have done this differently. I could have done that differently. My coach told me I should have done this. My colleagues or my teammates told me I should have done that. And a lot of the times, these voices in our heads come from the outside and make us criticize ourselves, even though we've achieved the goal or the purpose of the competition or the tournament. And that's where self-compassion comes in. Because if you are always acting out of fear of losing, fear of not progressing, fear of not being able to defend your spot or your title, then you're always going to be, a little bit unsatisfied with who you are in the present moment. And to perform well, you need to be happy because happiness is key to performance. You need to enjoy your game because that's when you get into a state of flow, which I will come to next and discuss more in my next few videos. But flow is this state where you're completely engaged and engrossed and completely satisfied with what you're doing in that moment because you're so focused, and it generates this feeling of happiness and contentment, and you're content with what you're doing in the moment. So that's why you can focus on what you're doing. And a lot of the times, self-compassion is very important because it allows you to make peace with the situation. It allows you to heal your own wounds. So after a big loss, if you keep self-criticizing yourself, imagine how much energy and time you're wasting. A lot of the times we think that self-criticism is going to push us and motivate us to do better. But I remember from my days when I was a judo player, when I used to lose and not win the medal I wanted to win in a certain tournament, I used to cry and shut myself in the room for 3 days. And honestly, when I think about it now, I think what a waste of time. I've just wasted 3 days crying about something I cannot change. I've just wasted 3 days of training that I could have done to get myself to be better. And I think over a period of time, that becomes such a habit that we start doing that in other parts of our life as well. So when you are in a relationship or your friendships, or even your relationship with your peers, your teachers, those can become very damaging as well because you act out of guilt, you act out of self-criticism all the time. And because it's a mental habit, it's very important to change that and bring in that part of self-compassion. And how you're going to do this is very simple. When you are facing a very difficult situation, it is important to acknowledge how it makes you feel because acknowledgement and awareness is the first step to self-compassion. And the reason why we often are told we're kind of taught in some ways to not be self-compassionate because we see that as selfishness. And it's not being selfish. Acknowledging and becoming aware of your own feelings and how you feel about a certain situation is not really being selfish. You're allowing yourself space and time to digest what's happened, digest how you feel about it, and be able to accept this is how I really feel. And that's the first step to it. The second step is acting out of love for the sport and love for what you like to do. And if you're in a relationship or friendships and, kind of when it comes to just general relationships, then you need to act out of love for the other person if you're, once you've digested how you feel about something. Because it shouldn't be out of guilt that you act. Because if you constantly act out of guilt, you're going to break down at some point. In your sport, if you constantly act out of fear of losing, you're going to break down at some point. You're going to be like, okay, I've just done so much to control the situation to go back to where I was, or I've chased this for so long and I'm still not good enough. And that feeling is going to break you at some point. It might not do in the near future, but over a long period of time, that's what it does. And if it doesn't kind of show up in your sporting environment and your sporting life, it might show up in other parts of your life. Because when you have something frustrating you and angering you or disappointing you, some intense emotions, they always come out. They might not come out in the same place where they started, but sometimes they can just transfer from one part of your life to another, one aspect of your life to another. And this is why self-compassion is so important for athletes, especially at this point, with everything going on. Do not criticize yourself if you've missed a training session at home, if you had a plan for a week and if you've missed a training session, or if you've eaten a bit of junk food. Do not keep criticizing yourself. Make yourself aware of why you did that and just accept it. Because if you don't do that, and if you keep self-criticizing yourself, then you're just going to be stuck in that cycle of up, down, up, down, up, down. And sometimes those downs can cost you more, and that's why it's so important to love yourself and accept yourself for exactly who you are, and allowing yourself to digest those emotions and feelings and thoughts that you have about a negative situation that you've faced. And a lot of people fear that if they're self-compassionate, if they're fully satisfied with who they are in the present moment, then they will not fear anything and they will become very complacent. But if you constantly love yourself, and if you are compassionate to yourself as you would be for somebody else who was in the same situation as you, somebody, a best friend, a lover, a partner, then you will always make the right choice for yourself. You will do what's best for you. And when you start seeing the difference, that self-compassion can make, then you will realize you don't really need to act out of guilt or losing out or, out of self-criticism. You can improve yourself while you love yourself. You can do the same things, feeling happy and feeling, not feeling the stress of something, not feeling the need to please people, or not feeling the need to fulfill unrealistic expectations that you set on yourself, because you've criticized yourself so much that you start overcompensating it by setting unrealistic expectations. And I have done that myself in the past. So all of us are guilty of it. But especially when it comes to a long-term athletic career, self-compassion is very, very important. And you need to make sure you take time to heal those wounds, to make sure that you're soft towards yourself, not always being harsh, because that becomes a habit and that can kind of translate on the field, or when you're performing in a competition, you might just, hate yourself or say really negative things to yourself. And that's how it converts into self-talk. And that's why self-compassion is so important, and self-criticism needs to come down, and you need to kind of start changing that from self-criticism to self-compassion. And once you start doing that, you will see how much difference it makes. You just feel so much lighter. You feel so much more enthusiastic. You look forward to your day. You look forward to your training session, because you're loving yourself and you're loving what you're doing, and you're doing it out of love. You're doing it out of, happiness and joy and the pleasure it brings you. And you're in that state of flow at that point. So make sure you try these things, and make sure that you are changing that voice in your head, and you are being soft towards yourself and really working on your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings. So I hope this video helps you. It's a really short video to spread awareness about self-compassion in sport. And if you have any questions, queries, comments, please do get in touch with me. All my contacts are down below in the link. So have a great week ahead. Take care of yourself and stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.